Hi. Tonight we're drinking double cider, double shovel, avalanche. That's a tongue twister. It's pretty tasty. It's crazy just thinking about going off script first off. I've been reading all these books and whatnot. I've been doing podcasts. There's all this stuff I keep wanting to, not necessarily rant about, but think about shit all week at work. Well, it's still a week. I mean, I call a week. What's a week? I mean, I would say the highlight in the last couple of weeks was when I bought a pair of these ear muffs for working, and you can get music in, Bluetooth, podcasts. And so I work in construction, so all day you're wearing earmuffs. Or not all day, but whenever you're doing things that are loud. And I used to have like a Bluetooth to a speaker, so you're listening to music, and that's one thing, because you can listen to the music. You hear it in the room as you're doing stuff, construction. If you don't know construction, it can be a bunch of different stuff. But you hear the music, you walk over there, you don't hear it, doesn't really matter. You come back, you hear the music, and whatever the music is, the vibe of your energy of whatever you're doing, as far as music goes. And then I started listening to more podcasts, trying to listen to like news or whatever while at work. And the problem with that is that you want to hear what they're talking about. Someone's talking about something, even NPR or whatever, Joe Rogan podcasts, but they're talking, and you're listening to a conversation that you become kind of engrossed in, and you want to hear where it's going. So then you go walk over there into the distance, you're missing out on the conversation. You're like, God dang it, the speaker's way over there. So my remedy was I had a little clip. I could put the carabiner, so I had this little speaker on my waistband, basically. As I walk around, I've got a conversation following me, because in the end, construction, been at it aggressively for like 15 years. I'm kind of the point where I've realized it's all just 8th grade geometry. You have to know materials. What are these materials? Look at this fucking old school shit. Like, I did this way back when. I didn't know what I was doing. But it's all just basic geometry, everything. So I feel like I'm thinking way less challenged. So I've been like trying to listen to podcasts just to hear super smart people talk about stuff, basically. And anyway, the solution was the earmuffs. Boom, earmuffs. And it wasn't even my solution. I kind of knew about these things, but my coworker, he got a set. So then all of a sudden he was just tuned out, because you got music, you got whatever right in your ears, also protecting your ears when you're doing loud stuff. I was like, oh man, I gotta get one pair of those. And so the next day I went to town, went to Lowe's, bought a pair. They're like $90. I was like, all right, let's see how these things are. And it was instantaneously like awesome. So like all day, I look at my screen time on my phone. It says I'm on phone for like 7 hours, but I'm technically not. It's just running, and I'm listening to people talk about stuff. I kind of alternate between. I pretty much roll between like Tim Pool, who's hardcore politics. Then I jump to Joe Rogan, who is political half the time, but half the time it's just miscellaneous stuff. It might drop into neuroscience or technology or artificial intelligence, whatever, interesting stuff. Then I'll jump over to Dave Rubin, who's more political and kind of different than Tim Pool. And then I also listen to a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk, who's super, what is he? He's business. He's business. He's not even he's not a motivational speaker. He's a business dude who has operational businesses. And he likes to talk about how business tactics, and this and that. And he's kind of, his whole specialty is kind of like using marketing effectively using contemporary marketing to do things. But it's super fascinating, because he verges on like therapy sessions as people call in with their business ideas. And sometimes he's talking to like some CEO that's making $10 million a year doing whatever, and he'll talk business tactics. And then sometimes it's some random person who's never even, don't know what they want to do, but they think they want to be an entrepreneur or something, or a business person or whatever, and he's giving them advice. And it's amazing how you'll listen to these people and go, that person's kind of out there, but he'll hear what they say and like turn it around to something good and try to like get them rolling on it. Very good listener, speaker, anyway, interesting person. But the gist of it is I get to listen to all this stuff all day, and it's great. And one point that's come up the last couple of days is Oh, and the other one is it's called the guy Tom Bilyeu. It's like impact theory. His his thing is more like positive self growth, not necessarily business oriented, but how to become a smarter person, how to become a superhuman, whatever. And he's always got these super smart people on there talking about stuff. So it's super great to like drop into like a 2-hour podcast. I'm like, I'm gonna listen to every single word these people say while I'm at work. The funny part about that is you can get engrossed in what you're doing, but then I do have to actually communicate with coworkers at some point. You know, there they are. We're doing something. I gotta pause it. So now I'm I'm kind of almost stuck to the phone in a different way, because now if I walk too far away from it, it'll start crackling at me because the Bluetooth connection is losing, or I gotta talk to another person. That means either depends on all the conversation. You can either pull the one ear off and listen, like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, let's do this or that, and then it's always like back to my brain, back to whatever I'm listening to. But then sometimes it's a real conversation, and you gotta actually stop and pause the phone, and I'm like questioning myself. I'm like, oh, is this more productive or less productive? Because technically, I'm getting distracted about where my phone is and what I'm doing with it, etc. I mean, I think it's all right. I'm just trying to keep it under control, or being aware of the issues as they happen. But one of the things they've been talking about, actually, I say they, it's not that there's an integral they, it's more like things I've been hearing about and thinking about as I do. It was like people, what was it yesterday? It was like people ask like how to find your passion. Apparently, and it's just, it just really struck me as an interesting thing that people don't even know how to begin to find a passion, like whatever a passion is. And it just struck me so interesting, because I've come from the opposite end of the spectrum, where I was already, deep drawn into whatever. I knew my passion when I was like age 7, which happened to be like skiing, and I was obsessed with it from day one, enough that, and I knew that it got me through school. It got me, I would do homework, or I'd do chores on the week to like earn enough money to get a lift ticket. I remember lift tickets used to be like $17, and then the bus ride from the town I lived in to the ski town was like another $10 or $8 or something. So all week I'd do chores, because my move was to go skiing on Saturdays, every Saturday. So I'd I don't know, so 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, I would go every single Saturday. So over a whole year, I could get like 20 or 25 days, and you'd like save your little tickets, and it was the thing that drug me through. And then I would roll into summer. As a kid, I like enjoyed summer and fall, and then you get back to skiing again. But then the older I got, the more I became more obsessed with skiing. Like, and I don't know, and I always think about, people talk about like pathologies of, addictive behavior, and pause. So yeah, there's a fine line between like addictive behavior and being passionate about something. If you're passionate about drinking, that could easily lead to addictive behavior in regards to that, whether it's the actual alcohol buzz or the social surroundings that surround alcohol, whatever, but in the end, alcohol is one of these addictions that's known to kind of degenerate or make your life less, make it worse. It's like got a habit of doing that. And that's not to say it does that for everyone, but it can do that for some people. But the same can be said for like good addictive behaviors, where the thing, and that's where I I rode the line, and I know people who did, like in terms of like I'm addicted to skiing and being in the mountains and progressing. But at what point are you doing it a point to where you're like running from reality, or I don't know. It was crazy, or I was crazy. I wasn't crazy. I was just like skiing so much. And it became like a progression thing. It was always about progression, get better, get better, get better. This, like, getting better could mean skiing faster for longer in the day, or skiing faster through steeper terrain, or going through steeper terrain and being less scared, or climbing a mountain and being less tired, or climbing more mountains and being less tired, or climbing a mountain being less tired and then skiing gnarlier terrain, or climbing a mountain. There's all these levels of variations that you could, or in my head, then you'd have to add imaginary competitors, like, oh, I'm skiing longer than that person, or like I'm gonna be, in order to be the best, I'm like, it'd be 9 o'clock at night, and we're like going to hike a mountain in the dark after having skied in the morning some backcountry spot and then gone to the resort for 6 hours, then go to the gym to work out, and then I'm gonna go hike a mountain at 9 o'clock at night. In retrospect, I'm like, wow, that was insane. But at the time, I'm 40 now. At the time, being 18, 19, 20, 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, it was basically early 20s, late teens. It was a good 10 years of like authentic obsession with unlimited ability to live into the obsession. High school was a hindrance for a while. Then I got a car, and then I got a season pass. And I remember just the feeling of being able to dreaming about living into the passion, but then progressively, actively living into the passion to where it became everything. And the problem with that is the thing that was good, it's a dualism sort of thing. Like, if going skiing on the weekend was good, all the rest of the week sucked. Now I'm just going skiing every day, and that's all good. Obviously, it's good. But then it all becomes your reality. And then I remember having these weird, lonesome moments of like, oh, I'm doing what I've dreamed of doing. Like, this is it. This is what I'm doing. In terms of even being there for the experience, or actively like getting sponsors, or doing competitions, or doing this or doing that, or getting recognition from your peers or whatever, and doing it, but being so young, not realizing that it had happened so easily. I had a bunch of sponsors when I was like 21, 22, and all I did was walk into the ski shop, and I knew the one guy he had sponsored had gotten kicked off the mountain for some reason. And I was like, I know so-and-so's getting kicked off the mountain. I know you can sponsor someone. How about me? Boom. And the guy's like, yeah, sure. All of a sudden I had like $5,000 worth of gear show up at my house. And it was like so easy that I didn't appreciate it. Or I did appreciate it, but it was so magical that I was like stunned that it happened so easily. And that went on as evidence of how my obsession had paid off, right? So then I do some competition. I technically, when I was like top 5 in the world 5 times, I did 5 of these world championships and managed. And when I say that, I mean within a run I did a 2nd place, but even though in the event I might have finished 6th, or kind of that sort of thing. And I never won. That's the thing. So that's the thing about the profession or passion thing I chose to follow. In the end, it was very subjective. Like, so in an extreme skiing competition, it's really akin to like figure skating. You have 10 dudes ski this gnarly run, but it's the judges who are deciding whether 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th place based on the run. And there's a certain amount of like, oh, that guy's already got a bigger name, we're going to assume his name is better, da, 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 da. And I'm not complaining at all, because I'm sure it worked in my favor at some point. But that's the nature of it. Whereas if you had gone and done like downhill ski racing, it's the clock. There's no arguing. If you're faster than the clock, that's it. Like, there's no arguing. It's like a very concrete, science-based evidence of your skill. Where I chose the route that was like kind of foo-foo based, style subjective, and I met frustration as I'm like, oh, I should, because you get the better sponsors if you if you get 1st place versus 2nd place versus whatever place in these things. And it was just, that's just what I was doing, and I didn't worry about money. I was like, and I knew, that's the thing though, as far as passions go, is I knew that I was young and had time, and that would not always be the case. I knew I'd get older, meet some girl, have babies, have a house, these things which have happened as predicted. So I knew that I had to like get it while I could. So that, as far as people, what is my passion? Not to say you're gonna die, but, and not to say that, then that's where it changes. Having passion, being able to follow into something without any distractions versus passions that within distractions. And that's how I've morphed. I remember, and I hit skiing hard through all of my 20s. Death-defying danger, so dangerous. Such a dangerous activity to where I feel like I dodged the bullet 1 million times. I've kind of got this like, oh, oof, I feel like I've dodged the bullet 1 million times. Like, it's a numbers game. At one point is my like number come up. and I'm aware of it, and I conscientiously decided to like, and that shifted. Side note, there was let's call it a 20-year ski program, apexing to whatever mastering that might be. Within that, I had like a 10-year downhill mountain biking thing, mastering that, whatever that might be. And then within that, I had a 3-year, I don't know, 3 or 4-year surfing, as I was burned out on the mountains, surfing trajectory, and I mastered that as far as that goes. And in those 3 big chunks kind of mimic how I always approach every single thing I do. Like right now in my head, I kind of want to get into archery, and it's this cliche. It's like, not because of Joe Rogan, because my friend the other day shot a moose with a bow. And I'm like, oh my god, like and I've never been a hunter person, but that's the way I instantly think. I'm like, wow, if I'm getting to be a hunter person, I might as well be using a bow to shoot brown bears, right? I instantly like look through the whole end of it. What's the apex of what's the top end of this activity? Oh, hunting brown bears with the bow. Oh, that's what I should probably do. I don't want to start. I'm not interested in choosing a shotgun to shoot a duck or a grouse or whatever. I instantly think to the top end of it, and then I'll even think through like, well, then what? Like, to get that good, I don't have the time to do that. Unless I can follow through, and that's kind of, it's maybe a liability on my own part. I recognize it as that. Is that unless I can do it to the like nth degree of whatever it is, I kind of refuse to do it. I'm like, I'm not interested, because I don't like to like. I just don't like to do it. I'm just like, what's the point of fucking trying something that you can't like ultimately master, or there's some path into it? And it's not to say I can't just do things mindlessly for the fun of it, but it is saying that because I can't. Like, like I have a real hard time. I'm just gonna go skiing for the fun of it. No, I can't. I don't know how to do that. It's either, for years it was like, I'm going to go skiing now because the weather conditions are like this, and I'm going to get better because of that. It was always, am I going to get better? Am I going to get more experience? Those are the 2 parameters within what I was doing. And then am I going to get more exercise to get up a mountain, climbing more mountains, and then skiing more gnarly terrain in more gnarlier conditions? Like this, and it's kind of endless. It's not to say it's endless, but it's like, you're going to die when you fuck up. That's the end result, death. And you might not even be at the apex of whatever it is, but that's what you're flirting with. So the whole thing is around like, oh, I didn't die. Okay, good job. Which is opposite of where many people in the world are, like not even wanting to quit some job that might be boring or whatever that is, and they live in suburbs and blah blah blah, and they're afraid to quit a job because someone thinks something of them. When your entire framework is around like, oh, I didn't die, yay, that's good. Then it becomes kind of synonymous with like soldier war type stuff, danger, which I've talked about in podcasts a couple times. And how what I've been doing is quite frivolous. Like, my passion is a frivolous thing because I have the luxury of being this first world person that can go hike a mountain because I want to go find myself. Like, I recognize it now as that, where at the time it was like, this is the thing. Like, I could make up the same epic motif of like, Lord of the Rings. Like, I'm going up this mountain for this quest, a spiritual quest. Like, you could make up reasons to do it. On top of getting better, on top of like, do my peers recognize me, on top of making videos, blah 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 blah. So it was a multi-layered reasoning of why I would ever do something. Boom, hit age 30. Oh, have a kid, get married. So basically through my 30s, I'm 40 now, first half of my 30s, I was like, this shit's dangerous. I can't do this. I'm going to kill myself. And I knew that, and so I say it to myself, and I found myself periodically doing like really dangerous things that I don't objectively or subjectively I don't realize they're. I'm like, oh yeah, because it was normalized. The danger has been normalized in my brain, and I joke that my fun meter has been broken, or danger meter. It's like, I'm like, where I kind of in this like, oh, yes, that's slightly, it's something. I don't know. My fun meter, there's no scale. It's been broken, which led me into like, oh, what's less dangerous? Like, what things? And that's why I started looking for things that were less dangerous, but things I could equally get passionately into that had a learning curve that I wanted to go with. And one of those things for a while was like kickboxing and like fighting, punching. And I was like, so for a good 2 years, it's kind of funny. There's a kickboxer guy I was going to in Smithers, and then I did a little bit here in Anchorage, And I was always punching the punching bag because I knew, and here's what I knew. Here's what I knew was that by putting all the time into skiing, snowboarding, mountain climbing, I got really good at it. By putting in the time and a lot of work and doing it actually when you didn't necessarily really want to do it. But you'd go do it because you knew it was adding up to getting better. I knew the formula, and I knew how it added up to something. And it was years later that I kind of realized that I actually met success with it, where I was kind of in it. I kind of didn't realize not how successful I was. I was kind of like unappreciative of where I was, and then it was years later I was like, oh wait, I kind of did achieve those goals that I didn't realize I did. It was kind of like a ambiguous thing. Point being, I know what it feels like to get good at things. So now, as I got into surfing, then over the years I click on the guitar. I'm like, wow, I could get really good at guitar if I put in the time on guitar. Where my guitaring is like, for a while, it'd be like 1 to 5 minutes a day. Basically, it's 1 to 5 minutes a day for like the last 10 years. I'll pluck on the guitar. It's enjoyable, but at age 40, I'm like, wow, if I in the next 5 years, 10 years, and really got into it, I could get really fucking good at this if I just do it. And it's just waiting there for it to happen. It's like, here's a passion that I like that I'm just dabbling in. Like, oh, I like guitar. Another one is like art. Oh, look at this random piece of artwork sitting here. I'm like, art. This is something that I can do. It's not going to kill me. And I know that if I keep practicing it, I'll get better. Random art. I'm not an artist as far as I know, but whatever, painting pictures. Another one is writing. I can write stuff. I've written a bunch of stuff already, and I haven't done anything with it. I've printed them or made self-published at Amazon sort of thing, but I have barely done any marketing. I've got the volumes, the stuff is there, waiting to be something to be done with it. But I have to work. I work a full-time job. And like a lot of people have families and kids and jobs, and people ask me often how I do so much stuff. And I've always done so much stuff. I've always got this perpetual feeling that I'm going to run out of time. And it's not a bad, oh God, I'm going to die. It's like I said with skiing, I knew that I've got a certain amount of time to do this in my life. I got to do it as good as I can. And it was there. Did it as good as I could. When I was surfing in Maui, we went there for 6 months. I kind of burned out on mountain stuff. And after a long work stretch, I managed to, financially get us to Maui for 6 months. That was great. Learned to surf. And I knew I was here for 6 months. I gotta surf every day because there's not Maui waves in Alaska. I gotta do it every day. So there's a time crunch. There was a 6-month time crunch. And I kind of treat everything I do as if there's a time crunch, depending on how much I want to do that. It's a flexible thing, right? Art, writing, guitar, these are a long game. There's no time crunch. I'm not stressing about it. Assuming I'm gonna live to 90 or 100 or whatever, I'll keep plugging away on them. But then you have to prioritize, is it gonna make me money? How is my time being spent that's going to make me money? And is money the end-all be-all thing? Say I work a full-time job, do I need my hobbies to be ultimately trying to make me money, or can they just be a happy hobby that makes me happy? There's that balance of am I doing this for fun, or am I doing it for some sort of monetary gain in the end? And more often than not, now I lean towards monetary gain. But the same thing with skiing. I would be a constant thing. Am I doing this to go get the ski shot, or am I doing this because I love skiing and I want to make a nice turn? The experience that's going to vaporize versus taking the time to get it filmed, and then you can ultimately relive the footage 100 times over because you filmed it. You've taken the effort to actually do the extra little step, and I can say that's a great thing. I've got all this old ski footage, and I watch it, I'm like, oh my God, I totally forgot that run. If I had not filmed it, I'm like, wow, that was a good time, glad I filmed it. And it goes for anything. I could sit here and think all these thoughts. I'm like, I could put these on a podcast and at least have an idea that's out there. So 10 years later, I can come back and be like, oh wow, I was thinking these funny thoughts. That was a good one. That was a bad one. What was I thinking? But yeah, ranting about passion, doing shit. I don't have any ultimate answers because I'm still figuring it out myself, actually. But all I can say is it's just the balance. I came through epic work stretches where I was doing 68, and that's the thing, through my 30s, I went workaholic mode. I was then, I'm not skiing, I'm not having any fun, like, I need to get shit caught up, because I literally had lived through my 20s like in La La Land, and I knew it as that. I was like, okay, I gotta crack down, and pretty much crunched through pretty hard through most of my 30s, doing construction, lots of 60-hour work weeks, throw another 20 hours on working on my own house, or ski building, or whatever. It was a workaholic phase. Then, what was it, 4 years ago, I burned out on that. I was like, I can't just work all the time. Like, there's a certain point you're burning out. Like, I've done the dumb shit where you're like working three part-time jobs, 60 hours a week, not getting overtime on any of it. Like, dumb. And then, oh yeah, I got Davis Bacon job, making this big working hours, 60 hours a week for 6 months straight, 8 months straight. Like, brutal. No life. That's not a life to live. You're making this much more, then you're getting taxed this much more, and then you end up spending the money you made anyway while being and that's when I started getting fat. I'm like, not that I was fat. I was never fat. I had a beer gut that started to grow because I was just working, letting my athletic endeavors all slip aside. But then, as I now had a wife, I don't know, she was 7-year-old and a 3-year-old. No, 1-year-old. They're 6 years apart, 5 years apart. I jumped into like Ironman training. It became a new passion. And that became a passion that fit into my lifestyle. And that's the whole key to it all, is like your passion has to fit into your lifestyle. And you have to have some sort of momentum you can see, and I don't say you, I say me as I talk to myself. I like to have some sort of trajectory that I'm aiming for. And, and that's the thing. Like, I can go hike a mountain. It takes 3 hours minimum, really, to go hike a mountain, ski, or run. Oh, yeah, I went skiing, got some exercise in the mountains. It's dangerous, it's time-consuming. So you do a big day, you're doing 6 to 8 to 10 hours, climbing a bunch of mountains, blah, blah, blah. And it's super fun, it's super great if you've got the time to do it. I don't have the time to do it. I would love to do it, but I kind of refuse to even do it at all. Like, last year I didn't go backcountry. No, I went once last year, I didn't go once the year before, and I'm almost proud to, not go backcountry skiing, because proving to myself that I'm not addicted to it, or I'm not addicted to the needing to do it. And it's interesting mindset, because I used to be so addicted, like the whole fear of missing out, FOMO. Like, it was a deep oh my god, it's a beautiful day and I'm not in the mountains and I'm in Anchorage for some reason, or I'm at a dentist appointment. Like, that was unfathomable. If I was missing a day, it was like end of the world, hating it. And that was for a good 10 years, which I realize a lot of people don't get the ability to live like that, but it's like a matter of, it's not about being rich. I'm not a Rastafarian I'm not at all. I would work a shitty job and go to work as a bussing tables at 6 o'clock at night and work till midnight, and then be able to do what I wanted all day. And that was the challenge. It was time. That's the crux of it all, is time, having time to do stuff. So I got hardcore into running training, swimming, biking, because those things, you can get half decent at it with 7 to 10 hours, like 1 hour a day. You can get pretty good shape. So, half hour throughout the week, a nice 3 hour something on the weekends. I squeeze it in. I'd squeeze an hour. If I can get an hour run in a day in the middle of my work family load, boom, you're killing it. And I've been, not say killing it, but I've enjoyed this progress, and it was a progress I predicted, and I knew going straight into it because I'm 40. I got into it when I was 36. And true, that was on top of the previous 20 years of general athleticism, but to truly focus on running, biking, swimming consistently. And now it's shifted to just running, biking. I don't really swim much because I'm not in goddamn Hawaii because of goddamn COVID. But where was I going with that? It's a thing that I was able to fit into my life, and I knew from the get-go that I was going to have a learning curve, getting faster. Hey, I'm getting faster, this is fun. But I knew old age is right there, where if I was doing this back at age 20, my curve would be getting faster. Yeah, I'm getting faster for this time, and you can get really fucking fast if you start going hard when you're 20. I was 36, so I knew that age was going to faster, and I knew it was going to catch me. And I suspect that it's already kind of there. I know it is, because I can't run, I can run 30, 40 miles a week. I'm not going to run 50 miles a week. I don't have time. I keep trying. Every week I'm I'm going to run as many miles as I can. And I can only really manage, for all things going, 25 to 35 a week. Depends on how getting after it I am. And within that time frame, that's basically like 5 to 7 hours, I can do certain things. And like I said earlier about things adding up to money or not, this 100% doesn't add up to money, because I'm like doing it purely for the passion of it. And as I rationalize that passion, it is, as it applies to real life, because it can't be detrimental, passion can't be detrimental to your real life. Where alcohol, if you really get into it, it can be detrimental. Skiing, you could be detrimental because you're going to die if you are into it too much, get buried in an avalanche or whatever. Where running is one of these where I'm like, it's really hard to die running, and so that's why I've enjoyed it. So I'm kind of right there where I'm just like pushing through. And the other end of it is that if I make them run the hardest thing I do in the day, like the going to work part's easy. Anything I can do at work construction-wise is like easy, because the hardest thing I did yesterday was like that goddamn 10-mile run I did after work. So now I'm tired, and it's a psychological thing. So instead of, and this is the biggest trick ever actually I did for work, because my work is physical for the most part, is to trick myself, and instead of being tired, I worked 50 hours this week, 60 hours this week, I'm tired because I was at work. I was doing 60-hour weeks last year, and then running 10 miles a night, going to work for 10 hours, then go run 10 miles after work, go swim for an hour, and then go run for an hour after work. I was managing this for out the summer as I was leading into this big race. But you make that the reason you're tired. So I'm at work the next day. I worked 12 hours this day, went and ran for an hour after that, went and passed out, got up at 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning, go to work again for 10 hours. Oh man, I'm tired. Oh, is it because I'm a slob, like a fucking horrible worker, like a tired, depressed carpenter working? No, it's because I'm super motivated because I went running after work yesterday. I'm tired because I went running after work because I'm so fucking pepped up, ready to go. Oh, that's a pretty good reason. Like, oh wait, I kind of want to go running after work today. Oh, I'm gonna go. Like, you see what I'm saying? It was like, it took it to the next level to where I'm no longer, because that was a problem through my 30s. Like I said, I was a workaholic, and like wanting to take naps on the weekends, or just tired, like tired of it, like tired. I'd be like, and getting fat and eating bad, like, and like I had to like take the reins of it, like, no, this isn't what I want to do. And I remember actually I quit. I actually asked to be laid off this job. It was like Davis Bacon, and I was like, this is no way to live. I was working with dudes that have been doing this for like 10 years straight, grumpy as shit, mortgage over their head. I'm just like, this is not a way to be living. And I took a huge pay cut and jumped to another job because I was like brave enough to do it. Some would say stupid enough to do it. A lot of people said it was stupid. I was like, no way, I'm not going to get tricked by the money for like living this horrible lifestyle. And then we managed. It was fucking great. Actually went to Hawaii for the winter somehow. And Besna got to have her baby in the tropics. It was great. Just because I believed, and this is dabbling into like, there's passion in what you want to do, then you're dabbling into like the responsive nature of the universe, which might be a whole nother subject. I think we're pushing a while, 30 minutes here. I'll save that for the next solo podcast. Yeah. If you like so far what you've seen, we've got some more stories coming your way. Hit the subscribe button. Stay tuned. God bless.